Hi everyone, James O'Connell here from the Hospitality Company, and thanks for joining me for this Substack Live event today. Great to have you here, and for those of you that haven't met me before, thank you for chiming in. We've had lots of people join my Substack over the last few days since putting information out about this live session out. So thanks for joining me, and whether you're watching this live or a recording in the future, great to have you involved in listening to this topic today. This topic today is going to be all about managing your wages. And no matter where you are in the hospitality industry or whatever country that you're in, managing wages has continued to become a major challenge for food and beverage owners. So my job today is help give you my experience of working with owners about what's working. And rather than focusing on what's not, it's very much focusing on what's working and giving you some insights that should have a powerful impact on the way that you manage the wages in your business. By way of introduction, I'm James O'Connell, founder of the Hospitality Company, and I've been a coach for 25 years working with cafe, restaurant, and bar owners all over the place, and I've had the pleasure to travel to many great places to see some of the world's best restaurant groups and cafe and bar groups. So a lot of experience, as you can tell by the grey, and I hope you can, or hope I can lead on that to give you some help and advice today. So the topic today that we are looking at is getting control of your wages. That's what the heading to this live session is all about. And it is a challenge that everyone in the food and beverage industry faces. As we see rising wages, as we see minimum wages increase, business owners are being challenged to be exceptional at managing this aspect of the business. Now, to be honest, I've been doing this for 25 years, and wage management has always been a challenge in all times. So, whether that be through economic difficult times, whether it be through COVID, whether it be through just time, business owners have often struggled with this aspect of the business. So, my job today is to give you some insights that I hope will make a big difference. So, we're going to look at this topic through the lens of two distinct areas. One is going to be through the lens of systems, and one through the lens of culture. And both of those are important to nail and to understand when it comes to wage management. So, I'm going to start with a story. And the story goes like this: that every hospo business owner that I have ever met that owns a cafe, restaurant, and bar has measured the cash up, or counted the cash up is a better way of putting it, every single day that they have had their business. And that has been consistent. And in fact, I'd go so far as to say that's probably the best system if I took everyone I've ever met or spoken to and had to assess the quality of the systems within their food and beverage business. Their cash up system is one that everyone has had, and for most, it's a pretty good system. Now, it could be very basic. They might have done it through a spreadsheet. It might be through technology now, but every owner has taken that aspect of the business seriously. And why is that? Well, the main reason that I see is because it's cash. It's money that the owner is expecting by way of cards or cash. And that money needs to be correct because that's the money that the business has earned. And so if that money was out, e.g., a cash up was out by $100 or $200, those are big numbers. But even if it was out by $15, most owners that I've met would want to know where that $15 is. Why are we missing the cash that our point of sale system or the tools that we're using in our business is telling us that we should have? So, with that in mind, when we think about that every single day, the manager on duty, the duty manager, the team leader, whoever it may be that's involved or running your food and beverage business, is counting that cash every day and putting it into a system where that has been noted. And if that number was out, the job of the manager is to find out what happened and to investigate that and to make sure Oh, I should end the video for you and all yours. Oh, sorry, don't know what's happened there. Still learning how to use this, but something popped up there and we'll carry on. So, yeah, every owner I've had has had that system in place. So, with that in mind, this is the lens that I want you to think about as you think about wage management in your business. And the first thing I'll say about wages is this, is wages is also cash. Just like we saw the cash up and the counting of the cash to make sure that the cash that was due to be handed over to the business from the guests and customers based on the point of sale is accurate. It's easy to do because it's money. It's literally money. Now, obviously, there's cards element to that, but it's money that we're expecting. And unfortunately, what I see in the food and beverage industry is a lot of owners and therefore managers not seeing wages as cash. And the same with cost of goods, by the way, but today we're focusing on wages. Wages is also cash, and it's money that the business is spending, and it needs to be spent well. So, first thing so with that in mind, I just want to sort of set the tone there. We're going to talk more about those systems in a moment and the culture around that, but I want you to have that same approach. Now, when I teach this to clients, I call it RFD, which stands for rigorous financial discipline. And that is an important message that I'd give you today is if you have a lack of financial discipline around your wages, then the chances of improving your wage percentage or reducing that is very, very unlikely because there's just no discipline there in the first place. So I'd encourage you to make sure that you are applying rigorous financial discipline in your business. And today should help put those systems and processes in place. So let's look at systems first. Now, depending on where you are around the world, you will have different systems for your wage management. And one aspect of that is going to be the rostering. Some of you may be still back in the old days using things like spreadsheets, and many of you will have now be using rostering software and technology, cloud-based software that is doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you. Here's one important message, though, or understanding around wage management, and that is that simply building a roster based on who is working and when they're working, e.g., their start and finish times, is not enough to master wage management. For those of you that are using technology, what you should see is that as you building your roster in your roster program, that program is telling you how much that roster will cost. And that's what we call a costed roster. Now, over the years in coaching many, many owners, unfortunately, a number of them have come to coaching with me not doing what's called costed rosters. And I'll tell you one reason why, even those that are using technology are still not doing costed rosters. And part of that is because they are not putting into their roster the estimated both start and finish time of that employee. They're only putting in the start time. And I would encourage you to make sure that you are putting in estimated start and finish times so that you, when the roster is built, you're getting a clear indication of how much that will cost you. Now, for some people, they'll look and go, oh, but James, we don't want to put our finish times because we don't exactly know when they'll be finishing. And if we put 10 o'clock at night and we need them to work longer, then they've got a problem with that. Well, you need to make that really clear when you onboard your employees and in terms of your position agreements that this is the system you run and there will be an estimated finish time, but that will change based on the demand of the business on the night. Because then that will help you build out what we call that costed roster at the start of the week, which as an owner, you need to sign that off to say, hey, this is what we're working towards. This is going to be the cost and get really clear about that. So that's step number one. But that is still not enough in terms of rigorous financial discipline. The second thing that you need to be thinking about is making sure that as that roster is being built and costed, that it is being costed against a revenue target for every day and therefore every week that that roster is being built. So we've got a costed roster in terms of a dollar figure that it will cost, but because it's being divided into the revenue target for the week, it is then producing an estimated wage percentage. Now we're starting to get into that RDF, that rigorous financial discipline. That is an accurate costed roster based on a forecast, which of course cannot be accurate because the business doesn't know exactly what it will turn over every day. But the business should know itself well enough to have a good guide of its estimated turnover. And then that will produce what we've called a fully costed roster as both a dollar figure and as an estimated percentage based on the turnover target of the business. If you are not doing that in your business, that is the first thing you need to do. That is the basics of wage management and the basics of the rigorous financial discipline in your business. So that is step one that I'd encourage you to do. Then that tool that you're using, hopefully you're using some tech tool. If you're not, you're using something more basic, I'd encourage you moving into that tech space. Then what that will do, it will produce for the business on a daily basis an estimated sales target for the day, an estimated wage percentage for the day, and an estimated dollar figure in wages for the day. And therefore, every day you have got those three key numbers which managers can now report on. So if we look now around the system around reporting, the way that should look is at the end of every day, what's the thing that the business does? It does the cash up. It counts the cash. Linked into that is this process now, because of the accuracy of the data that you are receiving, there should be added into that nightly report what the turnover was against budget, what the wage percentage was against budget, and what the actual dollar figure of the wages were against the budget or against the target. And you'll use different languages: forecast, budget, target, whatever words you use. You get the point that I'm making. That should be done every day. That is the rigorous financial discipline of wage management. And every day, a food and beverage business needs to be working on managing the day. Now, why doesn't that happen? What's the backstory behind why what I'm suggesting doesn't happen? Well, as I said, I've been around a while and I know what it was like 25 years ago. Now, number one, the tech wasn't there. People were having to do this with calculators, even, then it became spreadsheets, and it was just harder to do. And now the technology has made that easier. But what has also been consistent is that owners that I have met have tended to look at wages from the context of the payroll period. And so what that means is that most owners I've met who I've coached have paid wages weekly, so analyze wages weekly, or they've paid wages fortnightly and they analyze fortnightly. And that is because they only analyze once they've about to pay the payroll. And they look at their percentage and go, oh my goodness, this is 4% higher than I wanted it to be. Well, that is too late, 2 weeks after this 2 week of rostering and wage management has or hasn't happened. So we need to be able to course correct in real time, and course correct in real time will come from the analysis, the reporting, and then the analysis of wages on a daily basis. And that will have an enormous impact on your wage management process. So that needs to be systems around the technology you use, and then the systems around reporting. Managers need to be held accountable for hitting these targets. And if they don't, then there needs to be the question of what's happened. And I make that point because before, when I told the story about the cash up, when I asked hospitality business owners, how much cash would there need to be missing in the cash up for you to go looking? People, as I said, they'll say $15 is missing. We need to find the $15. But if I asked every single one of them, if $100 of the cash up was missing, would you want to know what's happened? Would you want a report from the manager on what's happened? The answer categorically is always yes. So what's interesting there, sorry, it's my computer just stopping there for a second. But what that is interesting around that is that's $100. But when we go and look at the rostering in this wage management approach that I've introduced to you today, if turnover was hit for the day, but $100 of wages was spent, that's higher than the wages that were estimated to be spent based on your system, then what happens there? Because there has been an overspend of $100 of wages based on the turnover targets and the roster that was built for that day. It's the same thing. And it's not the same thing in respect to one is wage management and one is cash up, but it's the same thing in terms of mentality. And it's about having that same mentality. Now, that wage percentage and that dollar figure, remembering the nuance there is if turnover was to be higher than expected, e.g., you're a restaurant and you had some late tables come in and they were big spenders and you wanted to keep a couple of team members on because um, they were spending well and you wanted to make sure that, you looked after the guests and got them what they needed. The result of that was more turnover for the night. You kept two team members on for an extra hour or an hour and a half. What you would see there on a daily basis is a higher wage dollar figure because you've spent more than forecasted, but you'd actually see a lower wage percentage because the percentage is divided into the revenue that's now hit because you had these extra people in spending money. So just because wage percentage is higher, sorry, wage dollar figure is higher, if wage percentage was lower, then that business on that day has been managed really well. So hopefully you're getting to understand that. And this is a key to getting your wages down. So part two of this, we've talked about systems, is the culture. So one of the great companies in the hospitality industry across the globe is friends of mine over in Ann Arbor, Michigan, called Zingerman's. An amazing company, voted smallest core business in America in 2011. And I had the pleasure of 2018 and 2019 of going and visiting the business there and getting to know the team there. And they're an amazing, amazing team. And when I was over there doing training with them, one thing they taught me that they have built in their business is this piece of teaching and learning about what's called the systems culture gap. And the systems culture gap is the system is this is what you have decided the way you want it done, which is the SOP or the policy or the procedure. So that's the system. But the culture is what's actually happening. And the systems culture gap is the gap between what you say you want to happen and what's actually happening. So if we looked at wage management on a daily basis through the lens of the systems culture gap, number one is to implement the system that I've talked to you about today. But number two, as an owner, is coaching and supporting your managers to make sure that they are doing it well so the systems culture gap is closed, which means that the way that you want wage management done is actually being done and is not being ignored, avoided, or changed. E.g., oh no, we're too busy to do that at night now, so we'll just do it once a week. Well, that's not what we've agreed upon. This is the system we've agreed upon. So it is really, really important that you understand that although I'm introducing you to a system here, that is only as good as the culture you have around that system. And owners need to coach those managers to make sure that that system is being followed exactly as it's been designed. Build the SOP or build a policy and see that that's being done. So that is a key to successful wage management, is this really making sure that you are staying on top of the business on a daily basis. A week is too long. You may pay weekly, but you absolutely report and analyze on a daily basis. That one single change has had an enormous impact on my clients reducing their wage percentage. And that is where I would encourage you to start first. The second thing that I'd be talking about with you today in terms of encouraging with your wage management is to make sure that it is crystal clear to your managers. Oh, happened again. Crystal clear to your managers again about the important role they play in cost control within the business. Often, what I've found over the years is that owners tend to take responsibility for the wages, both the building of the rosters and the payroll element of the business, at the consequence of managers not understanding or being engaged in their role as the managers of that roster and managers of the wage management process. So if you're an owner who's writing rosters, but you are not in your business every day and you are not seeing what's going on in your business every day, definitely relinquish that responsibility of rostering and wage management to your managers because it's an operational activity of the business. And even if you were there every day, which if you're trying to build a high profit lifestyle business, you shouldn't be doing operations every day. And that's another story, but there's other things you've got to grow to develop the business. But you've got to have your managers managing the departments in which they're in charge of. And if we're talking cafe, restaurant, and bar, we've probably got a head chef or a kitchen manager, and we've probably got a cafe or restaurant manager. They are the operational leaders of the business. So they're the ones who should be managing, both building and managing the roster, because that needs to be a role and a KPI of their role. So, and if they're not, because you haven't taught them that yet, then that's the journey that you need to go on, is to help them become excellent at wage management. And as a side there, you hear me saying this language. Language is super important. If you've got a mindset of only rostering in the business, you haven't got the mindset right. It needs to be wage management as opposed to rostering. And rostering is a subsection of wage management. So the company needs to be brilliant at wage management, which we've talked about today in relation to the daily checking and the systems around a daily wage management, as opposed to rostering, which often gets perceived as the only thing in wage management, which is we'll build a roster and we'll see what happens after that. And that doesn't work because that's not a serious enough approach to wage management. So if your belief system is we only fix our wages by fixing our roster, that's not enough. It needs to be, we need to roster well, and I've given you the system of how to do that. But then we must manage that roster well through the daily reporting and the daily assessment. That means we're doing wage management as opposed to only rostering. So hopefully those insights have been helpful for you. That is what I wanted to really introduce to you today in my first Substack Live, and I hope that you have found that information really valuable. Please reach out to me, join up in my Substack blog and be part of our Substack community if you're wanting more help. I will be running more of these live sessions as we go through the year. However, they will be for paid subscribers. So if you're wanting to get more access to more information, then check out the details on what I do here on Substack, and love to see you part of our community. So thank you for joining me for my first Substack Live today. I'm sure I'll get sharper and better this as I do more of it, but really appreciate you joining, and I hope you got some value from our session today. Have a wonderful week, and thanks again. See you soon.